Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. So in today's video I thought I would do a kind of how to smoky eye or kind of a how to blend eyeshadow. So I thought this would kind of help anyone who's kind of like a beginner, or if they want to know what kind of brushes are best to help blend out eyeshadow. And obviously there's no rules to makeup, you know, there's no right or wrong way, but these are obviously just my tips and tricks on how I blend my eyeshadow, and I get a lot of questions on how to get it blended, so I thought I would do a whole video dedicated on how I blend my eyeshadow. And I thought it would obviously help in future, so say when I do like a really out there or like intense smoky eye, then I can always refer you back to this video. So obviously sometimes it's quite hard to cram everything into one video, so when I'm like doing a whole look or a really intense like colourful smoky eye, it's quite hard to include like the tips and why I'm doing it that way, what brushes to use, because obviously I don't want the video to be like too intense and too crammed, because you don't necessarily get the full how-to. Obviously I haven't done like a really out there, colourful, interesting look. I just done like a simple brown smoky eye, which is pretty neutral in tone, so it will kind of go with every skin tone. Obviously if you're a little bit darker, then you can literally just skip like the first two shades and go in with those kind of colours. Obviously I'll explain in the video, but even if you're darker skin tone or your lighter skin tone, you can still use these colours and these kind of tones because they're very neutral, not too warm, and then they're not too cool either. Obviously I had to include like a tiny little bit of warmth in there just because I can't live without warm eyeshadows. But yeah, you can kind of pick and choose what kind of eyeshadows to use. Like I always say, you don't have to use the same eyeshadows or the same products as me. You can use whatever you have at home. And as always, I'll always link them in I don't know what I'm saying. I'll always link them in the description box below. So yeah, I really hope you like this look. This would be perfect for a kind of like night out, or if you're going to dinner, or sometimes people like to wear these kind of looks in an everyday life because it's pretty neutral. You can do what you want. I'm going to start rambling now, so if you want to know how I got this look right here, then just keep on watching. So you want to start with an eyeshadow primer. This is vital if you have oily eyelids, as it will prevent your eyeshadows from creasing and it will just make them last that little bit longer. And you can also put a little bit of concealer all over the eyelids like I did, and I also set that in place with a skin tone powder, and that just really seals everything in. It neutralizes everything and just creates a nice base for your upcoming eyeshadows. As if you think about it, powder over powder is obviously going to blend the best, so it prevents it going choppy and it just gets rid of that tacky feeling as well. So buff that all the way up to the brow bone. Make sure you tap out any creases in the eye before you set it with powder as well, as you can see I'm doing here. So when it comes to creating a smoky eye, the brushes that you use are so important. So the first brush that I like to go in with is quite a fluffy brush. So I'm just showing you some examples there. My favourite one is the Morphe M441 brush, or like the MAC 224 is quite similar as well. You just want to make sure it's quite big and fluffy, and using Peach Smoothie and that brush, I'm going to buff that all the way across my crease. You can see I'm doing sort of circular motions, and it does depend on your skin tone on what sort of eyeshadow to go in with first. So you just want to make sure it's a couple shades darker than your natural skin tone. So it doesn't matter if it's cool, neutral or warm, just as long as it's a couple shades darker, that's all that matters. You just want to make sure you put that all the way across the crease, as it will help blending later on. Doesn't matter if you can't see it too much, it will just make the dark eyeshadows blend that a little bit easier because you've got a nice base there, and it will help sort of transition the darker shadows as well. So layering and building up the colour slowly is going to make it a lot easier when you're sort of building up to a darker colour, as you'll find when you go straight in with a darker shade, it can look very choppy. So all you want to do is just go in with a slightly darker shade from before. So you can see it's just a couple shades darker. This is Creme Brulee by Makeup Geek, and I'm doing the exact same motion, just back and forth, and you just want to follow the natural crease and the natural shape of your eye. And you just want to sort of do circular motions and back and forth motions as well until you're happy with the intensity. It doesn't really matter too much about the depth, you just want to get the colour on there first. So by building up the colour, you'll start to see a little bit more dimension. So I'm using the exact same shade and a slightly smaller brush. So this is the 217 by MAC. As you can see, it's a little bit more tapered, so it fits in the crease really nicely. And this will just give you more of a precise application. So you can see it fits right in my crease area, and you can see the motion that I'm doing and the way I'm holding the brush as well. So I sort of wiggle my brush in sort of tiny circular motions, just back and forth. And you just basically want to repeat that step. So the trick is just to keep layering and just repeating it and going back and forth, just to help blend out the eyeshadow. So now you can see I'm sort of wiggling the brush down towards my lash line, and that will just prevent the dark eyeshadow getting choppy. So you can't really go in straight away and do it really quickly. You kind of just have to build it up until you're happy with the intensity. Because I find if you go in, like I said, straight away, then it can be just that little bit sort of choppy, and I'm just a little bit obsessed with making it look really nice and seamless. So it is kind of personal preference with how defined you like your eyeshadow. But you can see here I'm sort of wiggling it and doing sort of circular motions right in the crease and sort of blending sort of outwards. And you can always go back in with your first brush and just run it over the edges to ensure you've got no harsh lines. So now that you've got a nice base there, you can go in with your darkest eyeshadow. So again, this is matte, so I always tend to work with matte shades in the crease just because it's that little bit flattering. And I'm using that exact same 217 brush because it's nice and tapered, and again it fits really nicely in the corner and in the crease of the eye. And you sort of want to do the exact same motion, sort of wiggle your brush around, do circular motions, but I'm focusing that more in the crease area, and that will sort of create your basic kind of smoky eye shape. So sort of having the light in the inner part and then going into dark in the outer corners. So this part you just want to build up, and basically you just want to layer it, blend it, add a little bit more and blend it. You know, it takes a little bit of time, but as long as you sort of go back and forth and step back and just always blend after you apply, you'll be totally fine. So what you can do is go in with your first or second eyeshadow colour, and with a more sort of like denser brush. This is what brush is this? I think it's the 231 by Zoeva, and you can see it's a little bit more dense, so you can really sort of work that over the edges to ensure everything is blended. So once you're sort of happy with the outer corner, I start to sort of bring my brush up a little bit higher, but I hold the brush a little bit lighter so I'm not applying too much pressure, and I just do very light motions, very slowly, just back and forth, just to move the darker colour up a little bit higher so it's nice and smoky. And to also intensify the sort of lash line and just make it super dark, I'm just using a 231 brush. So this is obviously that little bit more dense, so it can really pack on the colour just towards the lash line. So when it comes to applying eyeshadow on the lid or just packing on eyeshadow in general, you want to use more of a flat brush, as you can just really layer and pack on the eyeshadow where you want it, as this eyeshadow brush is very flat, so it holds a lot of product without sort of falling out all over the place. So you can use whatever colour you would like, shimmery or matte. This is quite a nice satin finish, and I'm applying that in the inner corner of the eye and just sort of almost carving out the eyelid and following the natural shape of my eye as well. So using more of a pencil brush now, I'm just applying a lighter eyeshadow, again in the inner corner. You can use whatever colour you would like. Like I said earlier, it's not really about the colours that I use, it's more about the application and where I'm putting it. So this is kind of a basic smoky eye, you know, it's light to dark. You can do this sort of shape and I can't think of the word, eyeshadow application with any colour. Just as long as you do the same sort of technique, you'll still have the same outcome. So when it comes to the lower lash line, it's totally up to you with whether you apply anything on there. You know, some people can kind of get away with just having it totally blank, but I quite like to balance it out and make the bottom lash line quite smoky, so you can sort of adapt it to your sort of style as well. So I like to use a flat definer brush, and I start to really work that into the lash line. Don't worry about getting it blended, you just want to get the colour on there. So using more of a pencil brush now, I'm going to start to buff out underneath that lash line. So you don't want to go right over the colour that you just applied, you want to hit just under the edges. So you're starting to create that really nice smoky effect. And again, you just want to build it up to sort of a darker colour to a medium tone colour and then a lighter colour. And that way you'll start to create that nice gradient effect as well. So this bit is kind of self-explanatory, you can kind of see the motion I'm doing. Just go back and forth under the edges, just following the natural shape of your eye and just making sure you hit the sort of corners of the eye so you can connect it to the top as well, so it's nice and seamless. Then just going in with a slightly smaller brush to again buff out that very edge, and I like mine quite smoky, but again that's totally optional with how smoky you sort of create it. So that is basically the eye look finished. All I do next is apply mascara and lashes, but that's basically the eyeshadow done. So like I said, you can adapt it to your sort of style, but hopefully you can take some tips on how I blend my eyeshadow and how I apply it as well. So yeah, hopefully it helped you. This is the finished look, but like I said, it was just an eye focus, so I didn't go into detail on what else I applied, but I will put everything in the description box if you are interested. Again, I hope it helped you. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!